So I am going to welcome in two of our facilitator members, and that would be Cynthia Adams from 5970 and then Michael Lovett. And they are going to be talking about From Challenge to Change, Unlocking Opportunity. And they're going to talk for about 10 to 15 minutes, very similar to what we did last night in our other session. And then from there, we will be sent to our breakout rooms by Sean, and we will do some activities and then we will come back. So why don't you two kick it off for us?
Okay. Well, good evening and welcome. My name is Cynthia Adams, and I am with the Iowa Great Lakes Rotary Club. Our club is a rather small in numbers, 32. We might have 34 coming up. The Iowa Great Lakes Okoboji is located in northwest Iowa. We are a resort community in the summer, so several of our members are snowbirds. I've only been in Rotary for about 3.5 years. And in addition to being on the district training team for those years, I am also in my second year as Rotary president. My co-facilitator tonight is Michael Lovett. Michael, tell us who you are and your Rotary history.
Thank you, Cynthia. Thank you very much. I'm Mike Lovett. I'm in the White Bear Lake Club. That's about 11 to 12 miles north and east of downtown St. Paul. It's a club with about 110 members, split between a Wednesday morning club and a satellite club that meets once a month. Um, I started out in Rotary. Well, my Rotary story really starts 35 years ago when I was working for the school district in Minnetonka on the western side of the metro area, and I was asked by one of the school board members, would you and your family host an exchange student? Well, 10 years later and five exchange students, I finally got the bug and joined Rotary. I was a president in that club. It was a very different dynamic that I have here. In that club in Excelsior, Minnesota, all of the members were older than I was. Most of them were men, and they had a very clear idea of what was the right way of doing things it was. In White Bear Lake, I've also served as president. It's a very different club, about 40% women, 60% men. The demography is really spread across folks from the 20s through the 90s. And so the dynamics are different. And one of the things we're going to be talking about now is how to understand the dynamics of your club and really understand how to get the best out of everybody and work together. So specifically, we'll be talking about how to lead change that respects tradition while engaging everybody and figuring out ways that every Rotarian can serve and build connections. And as Cynthia says, transition challenges into ideas and action and new opportunities. And what we'll be doing is giving you a framework for discussion, and then we'll be sharing two different scenarios with you that you'll be processing in your breakout room. Cindy, back to you.
Well, I'm a retired Navy veteran, about 23 years, and I worked as a military contractor for about 20 years, primarily in the education and training field. But I'm new to Rotary. New Rotarians, young and old. What do they bring? They bring new skills, technology innovations, creativity, and fresh insights, passions, different passions. Michael, you've been in Rotary a little while longer. What do you bring?
Well, I think I bring perspective. My my professional work was as a school leader, school superintendent, school assistant superintendent. So I was accustomed to seeing students of every interest, every way of learning, and all kinds of behaviors. And that was true for staff too. And I thought of that as I went into the Rotary Club, because I recognized in the Excelsior Club there were some folks who I think sat in the same table every Tuesday noon for 40 years. Uh, in fact, I've discovered that they would rate the invocations on kind of the quality, but it was for them a fellowship, but it wasn't necessarily something that welcomed everyone else. One of the things that I did to get to know them was to have in-person meetings or telephone calls with every single member. And what I found is that once they told the story of why they were in Rotary and what they valued, they were much more willing to listen to what other folks valued, and we started to work together in new ways.
Well, this is one of the biggest challenges in growing our membership. Change is sometimes seen as difficult, but it doesn't have to be. I ran across a quote by Phil Crosby, and he says, slowness to change usually means fear of the new. Sometimes there's a fear of failing or rejection or embarrassment. I know I felt that when I came here. I was new to the community, I was new to Rotary. I felt more than a little intimidated going into my first year as president. NC Pets at the time, NC Pets and the district conferences helped, and I did attend an international conference. That was eye-opening. But change is a motivator. So to effect change, it is essential to collaborate between young and old generations, rookies and veterans, all backgrounds, races, cultures. You want to embrace members' experiences and wisdom, value their perspectives and voices, seek their advice, be concise and impactful when you ask for their input, but ask and listen. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised by an abundance of fresh ideas that can invigorate and reignite your club. Michael.
Yeah, I'm going to divide that kind of thinking into three categories. Younger members that I see as 20s and 30s, mid-career members, say 40s and 50s, and then retired members above that. Now there's overlap within those categories too. But some examples that I've seen that have been really healthy. Up until about 3 years ago, our public image committee really thought in terms of what shall we put in the newspaper. We had a new member who, in her professional work, was the marketing director for a local organization. She looked at things very differently, and it was fascinating to see in her gentle manner how she helped the whole public image committee, which at that point was men with an average age of about 68 and a half, how they could see things differently. And that's really transformed how our club has communicated, and it contributed to the success of our satellite club, which is on average much younger. Secondly, mid-career members. One of the challenges in a Rotary club that has been successful is you probably have folks in roles that for whom that's their life. They've been doing a particular committee or particular role for a really long time. And they generally know that other people could do that, but they're quite confident that no one else can do it as well as they do. So we consciously help folks who are in that retired category mentor and develop succession plans, which didn't really mean giving up everything, but it meant developing co-chairs who were in the position um, to really take on responsibility. At first, it was very difficult for the older members to do that, but when they saw how successful the whole club was and how satisfying it was for them to mentor and encourage someone else in the role that they'd had for a long time, it was really transformative. The retired members, they need to learn how to have a succession plans. One of our very wise, more senior members, I shared something about a year ago. He said, and he'd been very successful in business. He'd been a leader in our club. And he said, I've hit my 75th birthday, and it got me to thinking that I don't need to be the one who does everything. Rather, my role in this last quarter of my life, or what I hope is my last quarter of my life, is to mentor and encourage and support those who are in the leadership positions. That was powerful. What can we all do together? Well, I like to think of the things that we do together as serving. There's something about digging in the dirt together, planting trees, baking, serving in the food shelf together, standing out in the cold, ringing the bell for Salvation Army. All of those things, when we have cross-generation groups working together, it builds the relationship, and they talk to one another, and they listen to things. And that common service to others is a powerful way to bring your club together. Cindy, back to you.
Well, one of the things I want to talk about is storytelling. Powerful storytelling that's near and dear to my heart. I work closely with a company related to theme parks, and that's all about storytelling. Storytelling forges connections among people. and between people and ideas. Stories convey the culture, history, and values that unite people. I attended a Rotary webinar on effective communication and storytelling for member impact. Our host, uh, our host was Adi Onayemi, and he introduced this webinar by saying, if we want Rotary to grow, members to stay, impact to be understood, we must tell our story better. Compelling storytelling builds connection, and connection builds membership. Rotary doesn't have a visibility problem. Rotary has a storytelling opportunity. We build wells, we fund scholarships, we fight disease, we mentor youth, we change communities, we impact. But if the story isn't told, the impact isn't fully seen. And if the impact isn't seen, the membership doesn't grow, the engagement doesn't happen, and the momentum doesn't build. So storytelling isn't just communication, it's transformation. It's sharing the challenges, the ideas, the actions, the opportunities, and the impact. It's about ownership, ownership of our message, our voice, and the Rotary story will be told by voices that inspire, voices that invite, and voices that ignite action. So a challenge to you is to tell Rotary's story boldly, clearly, consistently, and with purpose. Tell it with, like he says, tell it with sizzle. Tell it in a way that makes someone say, I want to be a part of that. And the best sizzle of all, each and every one of you in this room has a story, a powerful story. You have a purpose, you have a voice, and you can effect change and ignite action and do it with sizzle. So, how do we transition challenges into ideas, actions, and new opportunities? I don't know how much time we've got left before we go into our breakout rooms, Sean. Oh, we got 5 more minutes. Oh, I guess we went faster
If you
than we
want,
thought.
if not,
Michael, what
we
else do
can
you
go.
have to say? This
Yeah.
was storytelling is just so near and dear to my heart, and it is really at the foundation of growing any organization and growing Rotary. And Rotary has so many wonderful, wonderful stories. We just have to make sure that we get it out in our local communities, in our districts, in our regions. I think we do it pretty well with the magazine, the Rotary magazine, but I think we can all do a better job. I know we can in our local communities. Michael.
Yes. Thanks, Cynthia. I know you're excited about that sizzle. And let me give
It
let me
is.
provide a framework here, and then we're going to give you two scenarios. Sean will put us in smaller groups so you'll be able to solve the problems. But remember, Cynthia talked about listening to your members. You look across those faces, and sometimes they can be intimidated, but you're their leader. Think about three questions. Why are they there? That is, what is their motivation to be in Rotary? The way you learn that is by listening to them, asking them, spending time with them. Secondly, watch how they build and maintain relationships. That is, some are better at individual tasks where they're comfortable being by themselves. If you give them a job, they're happy to do that. Others really value being with other people. So understand motivation, understand how they interact with others, and then find out what other skills they have. Often folks in their own work and their by hobby or profession have a skill that you can use in Rotary. But it's different to say, do we have somebody who can do, and for you to find out in advance what they do and like to do, and say, ask them personally. It's a very different relationship. Then you are valuing them because you know them. We're going to give you two scenarios. I put scenario one in the box, and then I'll put scenario two in. And when Sean puts us in the facilitation groups, you discuss those one at a time. But think of the things that we've talked about And from our experience, the generational challenges, the importance of listening, the importance of telling a story that works for your whole community. And then finally, my framework of understanding motivation, relationships, and other skills. With that, Sean, you can send folks out and they'll do scenario 1 and scenario 2, and then we'll come back and see how we've done.